Alright, stats, welcome to Yak Math videos for some homework hints for your homework due on Monday. Alright, number 3, folks. The probability of getting a tails and a probability of getting a heads is both 1/2 0.50. So if I want to get a tails and 1 tails in the first 4 tosses, that means the first one I want to get a tails, second one I want to get a tails, so that means heads then tails. By the third one I want to get my first tails, so heads, heads, tails, and then the fourth one, and then you would add those probabilities up that you multiply to get. All right, then I wanted to make sure you had some hints here for number 5. We finished with that one yesterday, all right? So the probability of getting something defective is you multiply the probability that it's selected, you know, that they get that from that supplier, times the probability that that one is defective. All right, so you have the supplier A defective, supplier B defective, supplier C defective, and that gives you number 1. What's the probability a randomly selected unit is working properly? Well, it's 1 minus whatever that probability you get in number 1. All right, and that's number 2. Given that a randomly selected unit is defective, so given that I get one of those, so now my population is I'm working with that smaller number now. Find the probability it came from supplier A. Well, that's just the supplier A defective total, which is that right there. I know in third hour we finished this. First hour we did not yesterday. Given that a randomly selected unit is working properly, the properly working ones are number 2, so that would be your denominator. Find the probability it came from C. Well, 5% of C is defective, then 95% are working fine. So 95% of 50, that would be that top number, divide them, okay? Last one shouldn't be that bad. Let's see, folks, right here. Well, here is just a lovely answer for you for 7. Okay, that is just a fact. Here is 8. Here's another freebie. Make sure you have all this work for both 7 and 8. I want to see both of that shown. Because the probability of A and B is equal to the probability of A times the probability of B, they are independent. Here is A. A is also a lovely one. Now, we did 8B, one just like 8B yesterday, so we should be there. Event E is a 1, comes up on the first roll. That's 1 out of 6. Event F is the sum of the 2 rolls is 5. The way I can get 5 for a sum of 2 rolls is if I have a 1, 4, 2, 3, 3, 2, and 4, 1. So that's 4 out of the 36, 1/9. All right. So the probability of E and F both happening, that means I get a 1 on the first roll and then a sum of 5. That can only happen in this case. I roll a 1, then I roll a 4. So that's 1 out of 36 of them. So the probability of E and F is 1 out of 36. That's that first part right there. Probability of E is 1 over 6. Probability of F is 1 over 9. If you multiply those two together, you get 1 out of 54. 1 out of 36 does not equal 1 out of 54. Those events are not independent. So they are dependent, all right, upon each other. All right, so you can do B, 8B. We literally did one just like that yesterday. Guys, here's what I want for 10. When it says workforce, in this example, we're going to count the workforce as the people actually employed. Okay, so when it says employed, you know that we're talking about workforce. So in E and F, what percent of the workforce, that's employed people, had at least an associate's degree? Folks, at least an associate's degree means that degree and that degree. When it says high school diploma or less, we're talking about that one and that one. All right? Folks, we did not talk about 11D, so here's what I want you to write for 11D. All right, here's another freebie. Find the conditional distribution of education for those who have not smoked a cigarette. I want you to do 2 things here. Okay, so education, you have the 4 different levels, and this is the proportion of those who have not smoked a cigarette in the past year. And we get that by taking this number divided by this number plus that number. Okay, so there's 29,000 plus total people with less than a high school education here. 18,000 plus of them have not smoked. So then you get that proportion. You take 36,000, divide it by the total number of high school grads you have in your population. All right, and you get a little bit more of a proportion that have not smoked. You take 28,954, add it to that. People with some college, and you figure out that about 65% of them haven't smoked in the last year. Then lastly, for college grads, take those two numbers together. You have just under 52,000 in your population. Divide those two, about 76% of them have not smoked. Now, here's the other way. Given that you have not smoked a cigarette in the past year, what's the probability that you have the following education? So what you're going to do is figure out how many people have not smoked a cigarette in the past year. So add these all up, and then do 18,000 divided by the sum. Do 36,000 divided by the sum. 29,000 divided by the sum. 39,000 divided by the total sum. All right, and then we get that. Okay, so given that someone has not smoked a cigarette in the past year, you know, it's over 50% chance that they have at least some college. All right, it's over 85% that they're at least a high school graduate. And folks, just a little hint on this. All right, if the north location is available at 40%, then the south location has a 60% chance of being available. All right, only one of them is going to become available. What's the probability this restaurant will survive its first year? All right, so there's the 90% chance it survives if it's in the north, which is a 40% chance, and I think you can fill that in for the south. All right, what is the probability that this restaurant is built in the south and survives? That's literally this one right here. All right. And then we did this one yesterday in class, really, one just like it. You just got to find the probability something bad happens, which is you either get an infection or, you know, it fails. And we got to subtract the overcounting. And then you just do 1 minus the probability of something bad happening. And then, boom, your answer. Folks, on this one, you have to make a Venn diagram, A, B, and C. Just put those numbers in. It's just arithmetic, all right? All right. And then mark, you know, from Venn diagram, I get this proportion. I get this proportion, this probability, and so forth. And lastly, folks, on this one, another Venn diagram, that neither would be the outside spot right there. All right, folks, this is your homework review video. This is Yak Math Videos signing out.